Now I'm very excited to welcome back to the show a professional sports bettor and well-renowned betting contest champion and Mr. Las Vegas Chris. You can follow him on Twitter at Las Vegas Chris. Chris, man, thanks for coming back on the show. We're in the heart of the NFL season. How are things going for you this week, sir?
It was a very unusual week last week, so it was just bizarre. So just trying to get recentered. It's been a relief with a smaller college football slate, so I can get some more stuff done.
That's true, but then all of a sudden I finally looked and there's UFC popping up again, so I'll have to deal with that tomorrow. But either way,
why do you have to always pee on my parade?
Can't make you too happy over there.
Jesus, I forgot all about that.
That wouldn't be equal. But hey, I'm wearing this Bears hat for you because they did pretty well for you last week by the way that you've been actually attacking these numbers, haven't they?
Yeah, actually, I had Minnesota, but I played the alternate line. And, hit a lot of middles on that too because it just played it a bunch of different directions, and then I did hedge teasers with Chicago plus 13. And money line and all kinds of stuff. So it worked out well. But the bad news was that my model did not perform well last week. So I've been doing okay the 2 previous weeks, but last week was a complete and utter disaster. So if I hadn't been changing my betting technique, I would have started Sunday off 0-6. And instead, the teasers that I used, which I basically am phrasing, I'm betting what I normally would bet, but I'm elongating the beneficial numbers for myself. And the conduit for that is either by using parlays or teasers.
Right.
So, example, the early slate Sunday, 0-5 on my model. I don't even remember it ever doing that, but 4-1 via the alternate method. So I'm seeing very nice returns with this strategy. It's not just it has specific goals, specific criteria, and specific filtering. And I've been very successful with it over the last 2 years.
I'm glad that you brought that up because you're the perfect person to talk to about, you don't have losing seasons and you figure out what to do immediately in a very, let's just say, high variant type season as last season and this season. And, it's so interesting talking to, someone so experienced as yourself about, what to do. And it's just amazing. We talk a lot. It's just amazing on how you're putting these winning situations together with these teasers, and you really capitalized on moving the numbers. And what's so funny is not even just the Wong teasers. You're doing them all shapes and colors, right? Well, can you explain your process a little bit and just tell us how the hell do you do this?
Well, it's really comical because I've had a lot of trolls on my timelines, either on YouTube channels and Twitter, and these people like to cast aspersions and basically say teasers are for suckers, and they question the credibility that you have, and they all go. It's just comical, and they don't know enough to even discuss the topic because even if they're rude and impolite and don't deserve a response, I usually engage them very politely, and I ask them. I go, well, why do you say that? Please explain your case. Maybe I'm wrong. Why don't you tell me how they are? How you're right. And they can't. So I'll just leave it at that. It's really, really humorous. But they're a part of my arsenal. I can't tell you. I've received well over a dozen DMs and other communications from people that have been using this style since I've spoken about it, and they're thanking me profoundly, saying, I'm having excellent results doing it the way you're doing it. Thank you so much. And makes me feel good.
That's excellent, and that's kind of why. And you don't have to obviously reveal everything. I'm just curious on how you're doing this. And we talk a little bit. It's almost like if you stagger these teasers, and just to give our audience just a little bit of background, you like to stagger them so the earlier game is not matched up with an earlier game. It's matched up with a little bit later game, so you can constantly keep pivoting, right? Maybe my thought is almost watching you and any types of games that you like, you almost like moving one side, the dog 6 points or so, maybe 10 in the favorite 10 points. And it's almost like you have winners built into the next play, right? Can you explain a little bit of that process and what you're doing in that situation?
It's really as simple as I stated at the beginning. What I'm doing, it started with the results I was seeing earlier in the season. And well, it actually really started last season because I was getting frustrated losing these, I call them toss-up games where anybody could win at the end, and it didn't matter what your handicap was. I mean, there's 1 to 3 games in that realm every single week, and since I'm high volume, that means it's hitting me every week. I'm losing these toss-up games, and you have to be able to pivot and say, well, what can I do differently? I mean, I can't just sit there and be a sitting duck taking +2.5 when losing these games by 3 or 4 or 5. And I can't be, laying this price and just missing by a couple of points. What are my alternatives? And entirely teasing a game is not practical into another game because of the liability. What happens if the back ends lose? So now you've wasted 2. So basically I decided, well, what happens if I bet partially straight and partially with teasers? And instead of those back ends of teasers being married, what happens if they're time straddled or day straddled? And instead of them being, the team being married to one team, maybe they're married to 2 or 3 teams. And you just keep on going deeper and deeper and deeper into finding alternative ways to bet what you want to bet straight. So essentially, I'm betting what I'm going to bet at the point spread anyway. So when 2 weeks ago, when Washington lost at home and that was a dead perfect long teaser and the Giants went outright, I didn't have it. I had 19 teasers that week. I didn't have a single one with Washington in it because the model didn't like Washington. And I don't just throw teasers in just because it's a long teaser sitting there. I'm only using the stuff that pertains to my particular needs.
Oh, that's great. And that's just amazing how you can kind of pivot like that and then make adjustments. And sometimes you'll text me on Monday and be like, oh, I got Baltimore or whatever -1 where the spread's like 9 or 10 or something. Yeah, it's quite amazing. And then you have so many options because the dog's still high. You can even move the dog up and pair it with the next game, which is Thursday, and kind of keep winning like that, as long as it's staying within certain parameters. But they do have to match your model, correct?
Yes. What I'm doing is complicated enough trying to just manage the teams that I want to play. Last week was just complete. I looked at it, when my sheet came out on Tuesday, and I looked at the games I'm on, and I'm like, you got to be kidding me, because how invested do I want to be in all the games that are sitting around 1 pick, 1.5, 2? Anything can happen. And I'm like, I have the potential to just get, crushed here. I really want some insurance. And I just started laying teasers on this, laying teasers there. Before I knew it, I had so many teasers, it was ridiculous. And I really didn't have any straight bets, because I said every time I wanted to put a straight bet on a team, I'm like, why? Am I supposed to conform to, having to bet the NFL straight? I mean, the goal here is to win money. And the most effective way to win money is to elongate the position that you want, as long as you're getting value in doing that. And I sat there and I do, and every week it's getting harder and harder and harder for me to place straight bets when my ROI on what my alternative is over 30%. I mean, if I just play my straight bets, I'm floundering. I was actually down. Using the teasers, it's saving my butt.
And that's awesome because I just feel like the variance has increased, yet the totals have went down. So since the totals have went down, it's more valuable to move those points, isn't it?
Well, that's a fallacy. I mean, that's a fallacy. So yeah, I've got 133 teasers placed this year, 30.8% ROI. So, and I had a similar ROI last season. So this isn't just some fly-by-night sort of strategy that I'm doing. This is, something that's working for me effectively. I would probably say a lot of the stuff that I'm doing is not Wong teaser related, and it's all just focused on elongating what I intended to play via my straight bet anyway. So that's the important thing to remember. I don't care if something's a Wong teaser, and a lot of it involves researching and developing what the options really are. Because the average person, I listen to pretty smart people on shows make wrong statements regularly about what teasers are profitable and what teasers are not profitable. It's amazing because people are too lazy to update the research that was done 10 years ago. Scoring has changed dramatically. The whole situational go for two, down 14 or 8, or all these different situations with fourth downs. And do you go for two? Do you kick the field goal here? All these things are affecting the flow of these games and are morphing around the value of different numbers. And you can plunk in what the value is of a teaser on a teaser calculator. There's lots of teaser calculators you can find, and they're going to give you what those results say. But there are more things not included in that teaser calculator than are included in that teaser calculator. So simply put, you got to do a lot of work and find things that aren't obvious to people.
And that's interesting. It's taking old numbers, so it just sounds to me like going within a certain spectrum has been more profitable and happens more than often than, let's just say, 74% of the time when it comes to 6-point moves and things like that. And I agree with that. I always thought that the totals going down makes more value in the numbers itself. You said that might be a fallacy. I'm curious why that
would be. I got into another you haven't seen a lot of my comments on Twitter over the last couple of weeks. I just some of the people that are out there aren't really interested in a productive discussion. They are home drinking late at night, or they're lonely, or they want to just teach people how smart they are and dump on other people. And I got involved in a conversation about a week or two ago, and all I said, very benign, I didn't say anybody was right, I didn't say anything wrong, but I said about teasers, I go, because the discussion was the dependency and success rate of winning teasers with high totals and low totals. And I just simply made a comment. I didn't even advocate either or. I said, well, couldn't one think, and this is what I said, couldn't one think that the low totaled games are not as good for teasing as people might think? Because usually those low totals involve inept offenses in either one or both of those teams. And if that's the case, and there's a higher likelihood of one or both of those offenses sputtering, well, then maybe they're getting out of teaser range. And if they're inconsistent on offense, well, maybe they both put it together at the same time and they go way over. And when you're looking at high totals, maybe those teams are more dependable, more consistent, are able to go more back and forth and keep games tighter. And maybe those aren't as bad as people think they are. Now, I summarized it in that's what I was kind of thinking and where I was coming from. Just fuel for thought. I said it in like 3 sentences. So I didn't give a lot of that. And I got hit. And I had some guy swearing at me, calling me names, calling me a fraud. How could you be so stupid? And I'm just laughing because I know the data.
I mean, you got 30% ROI. You don't need you're just doing a favor, basically talking to these people and giving your advice. You don't even need to spend the time to do that. Some of these people being extremely rude, just like you see on the internet, just straight up trolls. But yeah, I agree with you. If some teams that are inept in scoring, red zone style, you can think of the Saints last week, couple other teams, maybe that's not the best thing to tease in that situation. And when I said scoring down, I didn't mean as the Vegas line total. I just meant scoring down in general might put more value in the numbers. But yeah, we all got our trolls, man. It's tough to avoid them at times, but hey, you know what? You have the numbers to back it out, and you have the clientele that's happy that you made these pivots and changes, because there's a lot of people every single year that have been very profitable sports bettors in the past that might not have made so many changes in their, sacrificing some value just on not finding ways like you did. So I think in hurting their own clients. So I think that's important that you did that. And I think it's very admirable that you do that. And of course, the way you try to help people out. And it sucks that there's people out there that will get involved in trying to downgrade or degrade you.
Well, we need larger sample sizes and longer history. Between the last 2 seasons, I have 182 wagers so far. And it's not high enough really to be saying, oh, well, I'm 100% right. But that's enough if it's trending as well as it is to at least consider that maybe I do know what I'm talking about, and maybe I'm not the imbecile fraud that people like to throw around. And it's just so funny. It's just like, but I spent 4 hours on a client wager conference last night. Was that last night? No, that was 2 nights ago. 2 nights ago. Boy, that's a lot of fun. I would rather spend my time with people that are following me and communicate directly with them through the videos I do with Ron or BetUS or privately. That's just far more rewarding than to try to just go out there on X and advocate anything at this point, because there's just so much negativity.
Well, let's get on some positive things here, and that we have some games this week to look at. And today or tonight, we have a matchup. Now, most of the people will get this show tomorrow, so I'm just going to briefly touch on this game. But Seattle's playing the Cowboys, and the Cowboys have been just blowing people out at home. We could show you what the odds are right now. It's of course, I have college football up here. Pivoting to the NFL, 9 in DraftKings, 9 minus 115 here. Total's about 47.5. Chris, do you have anything on this game going, or maybe possibly some teasers?
Well, that's the other thing that comes into play also is how well can you read a market? I mean, I always say that the easiest thing about betting, in my eyes, is deciding who you're going to bet on. What takes the longest and is most time consuming is when and how are you going to bet it? So, with certain situations, certain teams, you start to, you have to learn how to read the market and notice patterns and stuff. And when you see teams like Dallas and Miami and other teams that seem to garner nothing but support as the weeks go on, that's a good position to be taking some money line parlay positions. So, it's, at the beginning of the week, you're talking about sub 400 money lines that end up being mid to high 400 money lines that you have locked into your parlays. So that's something that I look for in this game. I really hate to give up in teasers as much as I use them. I don't like giving up the one and the two. I just don't. So when people are cavalier and say just get under that three, I cringe. I'm not that enthusiastic about something that I have to tease from uh, 9.5 to 2.5 uh, and pay 130, 140 on it. So I like the money line. I like the money line take. I like the pick take, and I did a variety of different things with that. I like a first half money line look also.
On the Cowboys side, I'm
Yeah.
guessing. Yeah. Okay.
But the
So
money was minus 290 the last time I checked. It's whoops, I didn't do money line.
the first half.
Yeah, it's up a little bit more. It's like you can get 305s.
Yeah, it's went up a bit, 460s for the game. But yeah, there's some good dance partners with some of these teams too. I This game to me, there's a path to at least covering, if not victory, for Seattle. I know you mentioned poisoning their food earlier, but I'm not sure if we'd be allowed to do that. But either way, the Cowboys have been obviously unstoppable at home. But their home record is against a lot of crap, just crap teams. Jets without Rodgers. I mean, that was what was their best one. I think the Rams, I guess, was their best home win, and that's saying something. The rest were like the Giants, the Commanders, games like that. Now, Seattle isn't exactly a great team, but their path to victory is running the football, Chris. I mean, if I'm Pete Carroll, believe it or not, I would always almost defer on the coin flip, but I kind of want the ball here just to start running clock. I want to kind of dink and dunk, use my tight end, Charbonnet, just full blast. Tell your offensive line, we're just going to run the ball today. I need you to block, chip away at the clock, and maybe you catch the Cowboys cold on that. Maybe you get a field goal the first drive, and maybe the Cowboys are a little cold, and then you can get some field position on a punt, and then all of a sudden there's no time left. That's the only way to win here, in my opinion, because this Cowboys offense is hot, and you can't let them jump you, But can I trust Pete Carroll to do that? He's a good coach, but he's screwed up before. I mean, Geno Smith has been untrustworthy. So I if this was a 10, Chris, I'd probably be more involved. But I mean, right now it's just a money line parlay side, if anything, for me.
But did you get that idea from another game that recently occurred?
No, I did it
because 1 week ago today, a team did just that, and that's the Green Bay Packers. They won the coin toss and said, "No, we're going to take the ball." And you saw how that succeeded for them. They came in with confidence. They scored, and they put the Lions on their heels, and it worked out very well for them. So I think you're right. It could, something like that could benefit Seattle.
Well, I was 3 beers in by then on Christmas, Thanksgiving morning. I don't know if I paid attention to that, but yeah, that's a great point. So that's how the Packers did ruin everybody's survivor pools last week. Well, let's move on to the Cardinals versus Steelers. The Steelers are minus 5.5. The total on this is 41. Chris, what are your thoughts on the Cardinals traveling out to Pittsburgh?
I was surprised to see Zach Ertz released this morning. He might end up back on the Eagles or maybe on the Ravens. I'd like to see him go to the Ravens because I have Ravens futures.
The Eagles would be funny because he was there. Now Goddard's hurt, so that would be a little ironic. I wonder if he's a little bitter with them. I don't know. I'd like to see him on the Niners. That'd be kind of like a stick. The Niners block the Eagles, grab him real quick. I don't know who's first on waivers or what to be able to grab him, but I think he's still a very capable tight end, and I kind of want to see him win a championship, so it'd be cool.
We went to you skipped to Arizona, right?
I'm not going in rotation order. I'm going in time order. That's what our sponsor, Betfred Sports, lays them out, and I'll share our screen here. So I do apologize that you usually go by rotation, but we'll go with the Cardinals Steelers here. And it's 5.5. This number was at 6. But
it's 6 now.
Is it 6 in a lot of books?
Not a lot, but you can get anywhere from 5 to 6.
Definitely shop. I like the Cardinals at 6 personally. And we talked earlier. The Steelers are one of my most fraudulent teams out there. They kind of do it with at the end of the game stuff, turnovers, forcing fumbles, getting to the quarterback, field position. They're getting outgained in almost every single game. They finally outgained the Bengals last week, right? Their first time they outgained somebody, which was funny to see. But I just don't think Kenny Pickett's that good. I know Matt Canada's been gone now a little bit, but is that going to be that much of a bump? I mean, Mike Tomlin is starting to turn into Jeff Fisher a little bit for me. I don't see how anyone can lay past 3 in any situation with the Steelers when they're net negative yards per play negative. Now, it's not like the Cardinals are good. I do think McBride and Brown is going to play, Marquise Brown, from my source that I talked to today. So I think, you have Kyler Murray. He's a very good runner running the football. He can catch teams. He can score at weird times. I know TJ Watt's going to get in his face, but that's sometimes good for guys like him and Lamar Jackson and Justin Fields. Yeah, sure, bring the pressure. I'll just run right under it and get 10, 15 yards. I mean, that can happen plenty with the Cardinals. So I liked him at 6, Chris, and that'll be the free play. A free play that I'm giving out here. I took him for a few stars.
Well, I did play the Cardinals +6 as a straight bet, and I'm hoping that I'm unsure what's going on with this Arizona team. I mean, we can agree that their defense sucks, and that's going to make things a little easier on Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh still had their problems with the red zone last week, but an Arizona defense might be able to cure that for them. So it's a little bit of a concern I had, but they played so poorly. They seem to have just given up last week.
Mm-hmm.
And you would think they would come in with that same energy that we saw for the previous 11 weeks of the season, because, at least for the entire first halves of every previous game, Arizona was in there and they were fighting hard. And in, a couple of the games they got blown out in the second half and maybe faded in the fourth quarters, but the vast majority of it, you saw great effort start to finish. And last week was the least amount of effort we've seen for a full game. So I'm hoping that they come out hard this week and embarrassed by last week and just want to kind of show that they do belong, or that they aren't going to be, pushovers. And we know from experience with Pittsburgh, every time you bet Pittsburgh against a team they're supposed to beat, not only do they not cover, it seems they can't win the game. So I'd love to see that this week, but
I would too.
You know what? I don't think it's clear cut. I don't, when you immediately look at that line, you sit there and say, who is Pittsburgh to lay 6 to anybody? That's your immediate gut reaction. And that's what the instinct is. And that's probably correct. But if Arizona no shows again, that 6 isn't going to be helping them very much.
Well, that's true. And I think it's a great point that you made. They gave up. I think a lot of teams that aren't winning and they start giving it away are just have a tendency to be like, okay, we lost this game. And then the other team covers the spread. They don't even really make a comeback. I think Arizona is in that category. I think Carolina is in that category. The Bears might be in that category, although they feel a little bit more rejuvenated. Bad teams will just quit quicker, and I'm concerned for a couple other teams when we get to the Commanders and a couple other games that this could absolutely happen this late in the season. I mean, the season takes a toll on you, especially when they add games. There's 17 games last couple years here now, and you're getting paid. You're an NFL player. You're not proving anything. This ain't the last game of the season. I think that's what you saw. But at the same time, I think that Cardinals can be in this game. So I have full agreement with you on this one. So it's good to be on the right one. Let's put on the next game, and I will go in rotation order, Chris, since that's what you're used to.
Oh, no, I don't care. I just want to make sure I heard things right.
For sure. Well, Los Angeles Chargers versus the Patriots. And this is 451, 452. The Patriots are home dogs, 5.5 points in most of the books. It looks like the contest just came out. It's a 5. The total is 40.5. Anything in this game, Chris?
I think you're looking at the exact same identical situation, a team favored by 6, and your immediate reaction is, how the hell can that possibly happen? And we've obviously seen the market come down. It's I haven't checked lately, but we certainly have some 5s available. I was just seeing if it was lower than that. We have 5 and 6 available on that. My model likes the Chargers though. So, but common sense and the strategies that I've been using, there's no way in hell I'm laying even 5 with that team in Foxborough with a 4-7 team. So God only knows what's going on with this Patriot team. It's from week to week, but usually the Patriots have metrics that they're doing a lot of things well that you don't see, and they actually usually grade out higher than they really play. And this year they're actually playing worse than they grade out, which is unusual for a Belichick team, because for years New England has bothered me in my model because they would always be overvalued. And this year, they aren't even reaching those levels. So there's been a really odd switch on that. And now you've got the switch in quarterback. So, how does that factor in? It seems like he comes in for 1 or 2 series and, looks like a world beater. And then, he looks like a Keystone Cop for the rest of the game. So, I think for my look, Chargers money line, some sort of getting him down to pick in some fashion. You can't tease him, obviously, but I'm not interested in laying points. That's for sure.
Yeah. Did they announce a Patriots starting quarterback?
I thought I've seen it in several places what's his name? The other guy is going to be playing.
Not Mac Jones, but Bailey Zappi, I'm guessing.
Zappy.
But not Malik Cunningham might even have a few Wildcat type plays too, I would think. He's been on the roster for a while.
They can put Richie Cunningham in there for all I care. I think you're going to get the same results.
Yeah, Malik Cunningham's actually still in the practice squad, it looks like. I think the spread's a little high for a Chargers team that's just injured. When I look at the injury report here for the Chargers, they have starting to get clustery and I'm trying to pull it up here as I'm talking here. On the offensive line. Obviously, they lost some receivers this year, but it looks like Trey Pipkin's questionable. Rashawn Slater, 2 tackles that are questionable, and Zach Bailey, a tackle that's questionable. I'm going to monitor that a bit, but Keenan Allen, that's really the only guy they have left, and he's questionable. So who they have to throw to is Gerald Everett, I guess, and Everett could do it. Everett's a beast, but they just are so injured in that offensive line. I almost kind of wonder if what the Chargers are feeling after last week's tough night game against the Ravens, where they're kind of in that game for a while and gave up the spread and gave up the whole game at the end. Thank God I didn't watch it. I was done by that point. But either way, Joey Bosa being out is always a problem. The Patriots they're probably the team that could quit later too, but I'm not sure if they're going to do it in Foxborough after losing to the Giants. Somehow the Patriots are still metrically very good on defense. And that's where I think they have opportunity here, but 5.5 is not a number I'm interested in getting involved in, Chris. Let's move on to the next game. The Lions versus the Saints. The Saints are +4. The total is about 46.5, Chris. The Lions have been leaking a little bit of oil, as you like to say lately, haven't they?
I'm not really that familiar with that team. Obviously, my home team, I follow them very closely, and it is a little disheartening. We have found out over the last 2 games that they will not be a member of the NFL elite the elite membership club. I'll put it. They're certainly trying to hang on to a second tier at this point with a defense like they've had. what was really alarming last week is for the number one offensive line to get their ass kicked like they did by Green Bay last week. That's a huge concern. They don't get pressure on the quarterback. They don't get sacks. Their secondary is not the best by any means. And you have Goff throwing up 5 times in 5 quarters. That's a concern. And you have Campbell making dumb coaching mistakes again, like the beginning of last year. So
you mean that fake punt wasn't a great play?
That was not a great play. And I think he's the only one in that stadium that thought that they should go for it. So
it's not predictable by any means, right? Down 9, that spot.
Well, when you have 10 minutes left and you're going for it on your own 23-yard line, 4th and 7 or 6, come on.
I know it's not even 4th and 3. It's like, dude, it's like you're down 9 points. You have 9 to 10 minutes left. What the hell are you doing? You have the offense that can do this. He gives up a freaking score. I could not believe it was over after that. It was time to panic, is what I told you.
I mean, you have to be lucky at some points, and there's been a couple of games where receivers have dropped balls that against the Lions that made their defense look better, and but that happens with all teams. But they're creating their own dumb luck, and I'm very interested to see what happens this week in this game. But I don't know how much it's going to. If they win, I don't know how much it really, means that they're back or that the blip is behind them, because they're facing a team potentially missing wide receiver 1, 2, and 3. Their heart and soul, their defense is not going to be in. They've got other injuries. They've got Carr, who has proven to be just a disaster. I mean, I thought he would be very good. I thought he would fit in perfectly and find new life, and I couldn't have been more wrong. There are actually a lot of people calling for Winston to get out there. So if Detroit goes in there and takes care of business, what did they really accomplish? We don't know. If they go in there and lose to that team, oh my gosh, you're talking about the Titanic.
You mentioned the injuries. I don't know who the hell Derek Carr is going to throw to. I mean, Michael Thomas is obviously on IR, but now when you have Olave, right? And what's the other guy's name? Rashid? I have to look it up again. I keep forgetting his name. That's massive. That's cluster injuries to your wide receivers. It's Shaheed. That's who it is, Rashid Shaheed. And I mean, Kendre Miller is a little bit banged up. He's more of a special teams guy, I think. But Pete Werner, their best linebacker, oblique, didn't practice on Wednesday. Marcus May, a safety. I'm going to have to check this more. But if there's cluster injuries here, who are they going to throw the ball to? I mean, Kamara? That's it. I guess throw Taysom Hill in. But then again, the Lions are just spluttering over lately. I hope they get their momentum back, but I could see the Lions blowing them out. But my pure number is 4.5 right now. And I guess if those receivers are out, it'd be 6 or 7 maybe, because cluster injuries are very, very important when it comes to these teams. Let's not forget they lost Marshawn Lattimore, their best cornerback a week ago. So, I mean, this is a very injured team. And I think they're toast for the season, personally. I think they're completely done and out of the race in the South, Chris.
No. They're fine. I mean, it's
these guys don't get healthy. They are.
They've had a lot of rotten luck. The Saints are underrated. They're not a bad team, but if yet another season they have bad luck again. On the injury front, and they're in a division where you don't have a team over 500. So of course they're alive. There's no reason why they can't be in the playoffs.
Yeah. Well, I suppose if as long as they get some receivers back, they do have the best defense, in my opinion, in that division. So there is that. But there you go. I mean, I'm
No,
around the number.
they're actually favored. They're minus 125 to make the playoffs. So they have every reason to play, and obviously factored in that equation is a probable loss to the Lions.
Yeah, and I like the Lions a little bit on the money line here. If you can find a dance partner, I still think the Lions. I think the Lions are going to win this game. But as your point, you're not going to be able to see exactly what's going on with the Lions after this game. Let's move on to the next game. We'll stay in this smelly division with the Atlanta Falcons at -2 at the New York Jets. It's 2.5. Yeah, all around there. But this total is pretty disgusting, Chris. At 34, you doing anything with this game?
Boy, this is just a week where, that line has shifted a little bit this morning, but we know how bad the Jets are or how poorly they've been doing. But when you look at Atlanta -3 as it was yesterday, who the hell is Atlanta to be laying 3 to anybody on the road? I mean, it's I just don't get it. I mean, I'm looking through the entire league here. I don't think I could make Atlanta shouldn't be favored by 3 over anybody.
No, they shouldn't. I agree with that statement.
The Jets are better than anybody. So, that's another example of boy, I really don't want to play that on the regular spread, but let's get that up to 8.5, or get that up over the 10. That was my look on the game. I've been on the Jets the last couple of games. I was against them in one, but I've lost more than I've won with the Jets, unfortunately. So I had the frustration level high with the Jets. And when you put your hand over the burner, a few times, you learn not to put your hand over the burner.
Oh, for sure. The Jets were embarrassed last week, and they bring it to themselves. But this is a perfect spot for them to bounce back. I wouldn't be shocked if they won this game outright. I didn't take it. I teased it. I did the same thing as you. This is going to be part of a teaser that I'm playing. I think that defense is good enough to stay in this game. Like you said, Atlanta had their big game, but guess what? Part of that big game was a pick six with a 14-point swing because the Saints were about to score there, and then Carr just made a dumb mistake, and then it was a 14-point swing literally in that game, at least 10, right? Because they're kicking a field goal there. So that was massive, and that's some of the stuff that people did. Atlanta was outgained that game. No, Atlanta should not be laying points, but I will say that I would not be shocked if the Jets win this game. They might get a little extra, extra pump here from, Aaron Rodgers, kind of throwing the ball around a little bit in media. Maybe there's some hope, some unrealized false hope that they're going to get this week. And I know their offensive line is all beat up, but these guys got to step up one of these days. I'd like the Jets here. I haven't played them on the side, but they're just a perfect teaser leg. Let's move on to the next game. Colts at Titans. Titans are +1-ish. I mean, it's kind of like pick-em-ish in some places. You got the total 43. What does Betfred have it at? I think the Betfred Sports has it at -1. Okay, but total 42.5. What do you think about this one?
I think it's an interesting game. It's it's in that exact space of why would you want to bet either team at pick or one? And I think you'll see the line kind of bounce back and forth a little bit as we get closer. Taylor, he had 2 touchdowns last week. He looked great, but as we see weeks 12, 13, 14, running backs get the crap beat out of them all season long. And when they go out, there's an overreaction to the running back going out. And every year we see when the star running back goes out, there's a fresh-bodied, capable person to take their place, and they do just fine. So Taylor being out doesn't concern me with Indianapolis. I think Indianapolis is the better team. They certainly have a better chance to make something out of this season. Tennessee 4-7, highly unlikely to be able to do anything. And, I don't know what's going to go on with Levis. The concern there is Henry. If Henry's really had an odd season and hasn't been able to put together anything of greatness, but if he's ever going to be able to run the ball, it should be this week. So maybe he's done, though. We don't know. It seems like there's just no product, not anywhere close to the expected productivity that we should have had out of him. So the Colts are playing hard, and we've seen a decline in Minshew recently, but maybe he can get a little bit better. At least you have a quarterback there that's not going to do dumb things. He may not be able to excel, and he's not going to make lemons out of lemonade, or lemonade out of lemons. But the other side of the ball, we don't know what's going to go on with Levis. He's got the wider variance of results. So what's he going to do? I think you can trust Indianapolis a little bit more. So that's where I would lean.
Oh, yeah. Indianapolis is, I like what happened in the bye. I think Steichen has kind of figured a few things out recently. And I agree with you. Taylor is not a big downgrade of Moss. Let's just say I disagree with that. I'm going to tell you that I think Will Levis is an extremely overrated quarterback. Even now, I don't think he's any better than some of the backups you see, the disgusting backups like Boyle and Flacco coming in, and all these bad ones you're seeing. I put him in the same category personally as that. I do have a premium play in this game, so I'm just not going to lean anybody in the wrong direction. But Russell Saylor says, yes, this future Hall of Famer, Jameis Winston, was it like the cigarettes? Or okay, maybe I guess he meant Jameis Winston there, but I'd put the cigarettes ahead of him in the Hall of Fame before Jameis Winston himself. And yeah, we'll see about the Grover Stewart thing. That's what he said, that might hurt the Colts run defense. Let's move on to the next game. We have Carolina at Tampa Bay, and this is an interesting spread in nowhere land, 5.5. That's where it is in most places. The total is 37. Chris. Tampa Bay, we had to hold on with the skin of our teeth on the teaser leg with them last week. What do you think about that?
Saw some unusual market activity yesterday. As ugly as it is, I like the way I read the market with Carolina in this situation. We know the Baker got dinged up last week, but he's going to play no matter what. I mean, unless somebody bans him from playing, he's always good to go in his mind. So, if you're reading the market, there were key indicator shops that moved down to 4.5, and we're seeing those 4.5 still out there, and but most of the market's still at 5.5. I think we'll see this come down. There's support for Carolina. I don't think they're going to get that coaching bump. Maybe a slight coaching bump, but not counting on that. I don't think Tampa Bay. I think we know Carolina sucks, but they want to win. They don't. You'd think that at some point they want to purposely win, just so that they don't have the scarlet letter of giving another team the number one pick. So you'd think that they're going to be motivated with the coaching change and not wanting to be the worst team in the league. And they have shown the ability to keep games close, and that they have not quit. And the owner cares. And they're now, auditioning for keeping jobs and to stay or go or whatever and improve their situation. These players have contracts and livelihoods to protect. It's not like they're going to just sit there and no-show. Tampa Bay is not what we thought they were at the beginning of the season. They're more like what we thought they were going to be before the season started. So as the injuries gone on, they don't have as much in the tank as they look like they may have those first 3-4 weeks of the season. So I definitely lean Carolina in this game.
You know, what's interesting is that Carolina is just awful against the run, but the truth is Tampa can't run the ball. I mean, they're one of the worst rushing teams in the league. And now you look at Carolina's defensive drop back EPA, which is basically a stat on how many points they stop against the pass per play. We don't need to go into that. I have many times in this show already, but it's 18th. It's not like terrible, you know. I mean, and that's where Tampa needs to move the ball is like that. And Tampa is pretty bad themselves from their secondary. They've gotten better at stopping the run, but I mean, Bryce Young gets a few passing lanes. Adam Thielen plays a little bit better today, or I mean Sunday. I can see them covering this. I didn't play it. I think I weighed it out. I think you'll see sixes again and 6.5, but I do kind of agree with you on that one. I was scared to use Tampa for anything, for a survivor or anything. I think this is a desperate Carolina team. And if the coaching bump is true, I don't like to go against it. It's worked for me in the past. So whether or not that's my opinion. I would be more on the Carolina side right now at this number, even though my metrics have Carolina as the worst team. I don't have Tampa exactly as a great team this year. Let's move on to the next game. We have in rotation order the Niners at the Eagles, Chris. Eagles +3. Starting to get a little juice in some places, -115-ish. Totals 47.5. What do you have for the Niners?
I'm a little uneasy with how popular the Niners are. It just looks so easy because the Eagles, the last 4 games have been very difficult on them. They've gone in trailing at the half. They've been outgained an average of 100 yards per game. We've seen how easy it is for opposing teams to move the ball on Philadelphia. And, Philadelphia has been getting away with it because they've done so well, in comeback situations. So, Buffalo just gifted that game, botching field goals and just mental mistakes last week. I think people actually upgraded Buffalo after last week. They excused the errors. It seemed like I heard more positive news about Buffalo after that loss than coming into the game. So, you have that revenge factor from the playoffs, and I think does Philadelphia they got Philadelphia as Dallas on deck next week. It just means more to San Francisco. They've been talking about it for over a year. For the next time that they meet, but this line's too strong. You can't lay 3 at this point. You have to wait for the line to come down or money line it or do something else with it. But I like San Francisco solidly. I played them on the money line Monday morning, and I feel good about the position. But I wouldn't lay 3 at this point.
Oh yeah, I mean, me and you both got great value. We talked on Sunday. I laid 1.5 at 110. Money line wasn't a bad play either. It went right up to 3 pretty quick. I mean, there was some 2.5 later on Monday, and I think like Tuesday afternoon it finally went to 3, or maybe it was Wednesday. I don't know, but I mean, right now at 3, I wouldn't want to play San Fran just because of the way the league is. I think that San Fran wins this game. But here's something really interesting, Chris, and I'm going to show you what this book just did. This is DraftKings. I'm doing first halves. San Fran is -1.5 in the first half, and their money line is -142. And then Atlanta is -0.5 in the first half. I know it's +102, but their money line is a lot less at -120. It's just so funny how much San Fran first half looks to the books. It's like they really believe in San Fran winning this game, but what the Eagles can do is catch teams like they did against Buffalo. They're just a good finishing team, minus the Super Bowl last year, right? A penalty kind of hurt them in that situation. But I mean, I think San Fran's a good play in the first half. I don't like it at -142. I think that changes, and you can get better numbers than this later. So if you missed the under the 3, that'd be my look, Chris. Any disagreement on that?
Yeah, even though there's 135s out there, and um, you see the same thing in Baltimore games too. Uh, but it seems relatively uniform on that. I think probably San Francisco might be a decent first half look.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
agree with you.
I'm gonna. Okay, cool. I'm gonna keep that in mind. No rush to that one right now. Browns versus Rams, and the Rams are -3.5. The money kind of coming in on the Browns. The total is 40. We don't know who's quarterbacking for the Browns. Does that matter, Chris, to your thoughts in this game?
Um, it, ugh. I think Garrett is the most important person, and he's slated to go. They're going to have to win this game on defense, and we know Cup's banged up. Is he even playing this week? Do we know? I mean, I think he is, right?
Yeah, he's supposed to. He played last game, so why wouldn't he play this game? I believe.
I know one of the medical, this sports betting medical guys said that, yeah, he's in there, but with the issue he has, he's going to have a significant drop off in performance, even though he's playing through it. And I, I don't think the Rams are as good as they looked last week, obviously, and I don't think the Browns are as bad as they looked last week, obviously. I've tried every single possible way to justify not playing Cleveland because when you look at the overall performance of this team, it's just not even close. So, I mean, you can take 5 points off for the quarterback. You can take another couple of points off for something else, and I still can't get to the Rams. It can't even get close. So I had no choice but to play Cleveland.
I have no numbers that show this past a 3. It's more like the ones, you know. There's no real home field advantage either for the Rams. It's very minimal.
And the Browns
It
stayed
is
out west, by the way, in case you didn't know that. So
well,
they don't
that's
have to
even better.
travel.
That's even better. That's a great look when a team does that. As dumb as Stefanski is that we saw last game, that it really left a bad taste in my mouth how Cleveland just took a
That was a
dump.
huge gain for me. I mean, and then how dumb can you be you have the motor? It sucked because Cleveland had the momentum at that point, even though they were in their own end.
Mhm.
They were moving the ball. They had confidence, and then DTR gets knocked out. And so, what do you do as your brain surgeon head coach? Pulls the backup quarterback off the bench. Oh well, let's give him a trick play to run in our own zone and expect good results from that. And when you see stuff like that, it's just ridiculous. Very frustrating.
Oh, extremely frustrating. I agree. You know, uh, I, I I should be on the Browns. I'm not. Maybe I can get there from a teaser perspective again and just make my life a living hell if they can't cover that. The contest put it at 3.5, so that's interesting. I think that could make the Browns a pretty popular play. Um, I There's a lot of questionable guys. I think that most of these questionable guys are going to turn into in or probable or in by the time this comes up because you know the Browns are one of those people that will just put everybody at questionable and then all of a sudden they're in anyway, and so that's why you got to dig deeper. I think Denzel Ward will eventually play. I think Amari Cooper is going to play. I like you said, Miles Garrett, their best player on defense that could really make life a living hell for Matt Stafford, is going to play. But this is a big spot for the Browns because the Browns are legitimate contenders still, just based upon the Ravens win, the record, Pittsburgh win. They're still in this. This is a massively important game for them. This
Well, and
is
I
one.
have Ram. I'm a believer in the Rams a little bit. 2 weeks ago, before I took the Rams on to make the playoffs at plus 895. I took Seattle to miss the playoffs. Plus, I forget what it was, but that was a good number. And subsequently, Seattle's lost 2 in a row and has 3 really tough matchups ahead. And the Rams have won 2 in a row, and actually, they're down to plus 200 to make the playoffs. If they win this game, they'll be favored to make the playoffs, I believe. So, but Cleveland's a favorite to make their playoffs also. Both it's a key game.
Well, let's do this. Let's do this. Which quarterback would you prefer starting for the 3.5? Which quarterback do you prefer, Chris?
You know what? I'm probably the worst judge of quarterbacks on the planet. Every single quarter, I'm the type of guy that says take Ryan Leaf, not Peyton Manning. I mean, that's how badly I can evaluate quarterbacks. So I'm dumb enough to believe that I'd rather just have a guy like Flacco that has experience. Even though he hasn't played, at least he has experience, and maybe he won't do dumb things.
When was the last time he played?
It's been like over a year, but but everybody that is more familiar with him than I am, says they'd rather have this PJ guy. And when I saw what PJ was able to do last week, I'm like, oh my God, there's no way Flacco could be worse than this.
He was horrible. He when the injury happened, the camera went to his face, and for a fact he did not want to go in. He was probably cussing in his brain, like, "Oh my God, this sucks. I have to go in." He did not want to go in. The big surprise for me is I would rank him Dorian Thompson-Robinson first. I just like some of the stuff he saw, and Njoku was dropping every single. Amari Cooper missed the 2-point conversion right in his hands. They were just dropping passes left and right. DTR was throwing it. And then I would put Flacco second. And then I would put, obviously, PJ Walker back on the practice squad. He's terrible. But that's my opinion. I would rather have DTR over Flacco. I think if DTR is in this, from what some people are saying, that the spread's going to drop more. I don't know about that. Or no, if Flacco's in, the spread will drop more. And if DTR's in, it will stay at 3.5. I prefer DTR. So I'm just waiting on this cluster of questionable dudes. I'll probably be on the Browns. It's not going to be pretty, though. That's a fact. Let's move on to Kansas City versus Green Bay. And now this is down to 5.5, Chris. I mean, this thing was 7.5 when it opened, dude. 7.5, 7-ish. It's just been dropping like a rock. The total is 42.5. Now, a couple things I'm going to say about this. The Packers have a pretty big injury report too. I don't know what's going on with Aaron Jones. I think he's a big part of this team. He took part in the stretch on Thursday. That doesn't tell me nothing. I know they had a big win against the Lions. That was one of those regroup team wins, in my opinion. It was more of the Lions and Jared Goff just screwing up than the Packers being good. But
no. I think the Packers are playing well. Love's stats are improving week by week. He's playing at an upper level quarterback efficiency over the recent weeks, and their defensive line manhandled the Lions' offensive line.
Well, I had the Packers as one of my most undervalued teams 3 weeks ago when we did this, but I just think they finally crossed it a little bit. Shouldn't the Chiefs be laying 7.5? Now, I know the Chiefs' offense has been spluttering, but here's the thing with Chiefs. They have a big game on deck, and they just beat one of their division people, so it's kind of like a distraction for them to go up to Green Bay. I hate it because I actually did want Green Bay at 7. I'm not going to lie. If it was a contest, I had them circled. Now I'm kind of like a maybe. At the what is it, 6 or 5.5? I don't know.
It's 5.5, 6.
Okay, so I don't have to make the decision now. It's 5.5 in the contest, so that tells you they were the right side of 7 for sure. But I mean, for me, it's I still worry about Love a little bit, and I think what they're doing is based on their coaching. So I guess my statement to you is you disagree with what I said, and I still kind of think that the Packers are starting to get to a little overvalued now that it passed the 6, I guess is my point. But would you play it at 5.5 or 6?
No, my angle on this would be Kansas City money line.
Okay.
I think they'll squeak out. You have to remember also this is a primetime night game, so I think the Packers would have a better shot if it was a daytime game.
You think primetime helps Kansas City on the road in the cold? Well, they play in the cold anyway, I guess. But
I don't think. I think if they're going to have an off game, it's more likely to occur during the daytime without the spotlight on. But Mahomes, prime time, everybody watching, they're going to put out their best effort, especially since Kansas City hasn't really looked that well, or that on national TV, on several instances this year. So, the key is whether Taylor Swift's going to be there or not, because we know that's worth 1.5 or so.
Well, that is a key. That's a Kelsey prop key for sure. For me, I'm curious about the Packers, how they're going to defend Kelsey. And I think that they're smart enough to do it and to stop. He's hard to stop because Mahomes knows exactly when he breaks and where to put it. It's just there's camaraderie is just so perfect compared to any other player, receiver type, pass catcher, quarterback. It's just it's the perfect one. It's been like that for years. But then again, the Packers don't have they might not have Devondre Campbell, and I'm a little worried about that. They also what's going on with Jari Alexander? It says Alexander was limited on Wednesday. If Alexander's playing, I'm sure as heck going to like it a lot. Rashawn Gary, their pass rusher, is also limited. So this is another like Cleveland situation for me. If I get
that Love's stats are nearly identical after the same number of games as Brett Favre's, Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, Rodgers started late too, and I think that I don't know. I can't remember what Aaron Rodgers' strength of schedule was, but Packers had a really good defense when Aaron Rodgers was good there too. I don't know. It's what's funny. I love in a dynasty league, and he looked like crap about a month ago, and now he's looking a hell of a lot better. And if they keep him around, now it's going to be worth something to me. But my thoughts are, my model has the Packers extremely low, like they should be almost like favored in a way here. It's really weird. My algorithm model. Now my power ratings have Kansas City by 6 or 7 points, but my model, my algorithm has it Kansas City minus 2.5. I think the Kansas City's not been good lately. I think their offense has been discombobulated. The receivers are just all over the place. But I want to see a little bit more from the Packers before I
think you woke up a sleeping giant last week. The worst thing that happened to this league was the Raiders getting up 14 last week, and Kansas City
hurt me.
Woke up.
Oh, that hurt me, but they always wake up against the Raiders too. They beat the Raiders down. This was one of the bets I regretted. I took it before the Monday Night Football game. And then the Kansas City, I think, ended up winning. And then the Raiders, no, yeah, that was the Monday Night Football. So then all of a sudden, the Kansas City, it goes down a little bit. And I'm like, oh my God, Kansas City just lost. They're going to be in freaking kick your ass mode now. I thought there was more about that, but they did start the game slow, and it killed my under bet too, which I had line value on. As soon as the freaking Raiders scored those 2 touchdowns, I knew the total was toast. I was like, oh, this is done. But the Chiefs, believe it or not, are pretty freaking healthy, and that's what worries me a little bit. And I'm going to share my screen once again here and just show. I mean, look at their injury report. Just Jerick McKinnon, questionable. Nick Bolden designated for return from their IR. Mecole Hardman, who cares? They just traded from this year. And Justin Ross never played. This is one of the most healthiest team next to the Chicago Bears right now, the Kansas City Chiefs. So that worries me a little bit, but they should be better than they are. Yet this is just one of those games that's just kind of distracting. Yeah, I mean, I'm right now. I'm not saying I'm going to play. It's just like from a contest perspective, you have to think of this stuff too. And I still, if the Packers can get the majority of their guys back, I think that could be a contest play for me, Chris.
Yeah, sorry, I'm just checking my injury stuff here.
Let's go to the Monday night game then. And the Bengals are plus 8.5 at the Jags. The total is 39. I'm hanging on to my Jags to win the AFC. What I got it like 20-1 or something. I think it still has a shot. They're not performing as a whole as well as I wanted them to. But at the same time, I just looked at the other schedules and I thought the Jags was better. Now, here's my thoughts on the Bengals, Chris. I think that Joe Burrow injury is worth a hell of a lot more than people think. I have no confidence in Jake Browning. I don't think he belongs in the NFL. And even though they have some good players like Chase and T. Higgins, if he's ever going to be healthy again, and Joe Mixon, they just can't run the ball. They can't move it. Their defense is terrible. My numbers have been terrible on the Bengals all year via algorithm, and it's only Joe Burrow that won against the Niners, in my opinion. I didn't lay it, but man, I would consider laying it with the Jaguars, even though my numbers don't agree. But if I give Joe Burrow 5 or 6 points of importance, then it does agree, Chris.
Yeah, well, I'm not going to lay all those points either. I was shocked at some of the highlights of how poorly the Bengals played against Pittsburgh. They're the one running back highlight where he's just dragging like 3 or 4 Bengals with him. He's got a little bit of help from his own teammates, but you just see some of these Bengals standing and watching, and the guy gets like an extra 5 or 6 yards that he had no business getting, and it just really was a poor look for the Bengals. And you can't get that out of you. You know, that sears into your brain if a team's going to be that lackluster. But I've said all the entire season, the Cincinnati Bengals have had a hell of a lot more problems than when Burrow was banged up. They had defensive problems and other offensive problems. So I think Jacksonville's a far better team, but Jacksonville's 500 at home. You know, they're 5-0 on the road. They don't, for whatever reason, there is no home field advantage. So, and I don't think the Bengals are going to go there to be embarrassed. So you are going to get a good effort. You're not going to catch me laying 8.5 or 9 or 10 or whatever it ends up finishing though.
Would you say that the Bengals? I mean, why is my model so bad on them? I mean, our models are pretty close at times when we talk, Chris. It's just I don't understand why it's so bad, and I'm not just saying without Burrow. With Burrow, it was bad for about 6 games coming into the season, right? It's just there's something wrong with this team. But once you put them in the category of I can give up if we start getting our ass kicked, like you're down 14 and it's the third quarter and you're just the Bengals are dead. You know, they have no chance. Maybe they do put a good effort up. I don't know, but I kind of put them in that category.
I have teams like I have only 6 teams worse than the Bengals current roster right now.
Oh, Chris, I'm right there too. I have 5, I think. Giants, Carolina, Patriots, Tennessee, and Arizona, I guess. But geez, I have Arizona and Cincinnati neck and neck. I mean, because of the injury, of course. But I'm with you.
Yeah, it's they've got a lot more problems than just a missing starting quarterback.
That's for sure. All right, how do we forget? This was my fault. The Dolphins Commanders. I totally missed that game, Chris. Now, this is a situation that I just mentioned, and I mentioned it earlier too. I think the Commanders could be in give up mode, but they did fire Jack Del Rio. I don't think that constitutes as a coaching fire bump. I never counted coordinators before as that, and I don't think it's really that true. That they hated Jack Del Rio. Yeah, they hated him. Yeah, so they played like shit. I think they hate the fact that they lost their best 2 players on defense while their secondary sucks. So it just exposed the whole thing when you don't have a pass rush, that your secondary sucks and then your whole defense sucks. And now you're playing a Dolphins team. The only thing that would save the Washington football team is really the weather, I think. And it's, 60 degrees, chance of rain. It's only 6-mile-per-hour winds. I don't think it's going to be the weather. I don't like that Phillips got hurt for the Dolphins. That kind of sucks. One of their best pass rushers there. But yeah, I mean, I my model has the Dolphins winning by a lot.
Yeah, mine also, but I don't. And here's a sneaky thing that people don't realize is how well that defense is playing. When early in the year, where when doing shows like this, in the comments and the feedback, I was ridiculed because I wasn't rating Miami high enough. But at that time period, Miami was dead last in defense. That they were bottom 3, bottom 4 in the league through like week 5 or so. I mean, I don't know what what the line in the sand was, but they have been doing extremely well on defense, and that's helping their overall rating. And they have not been that well tuned offensive machine that they were at the beginning of the season. Their offense is fine, don't get me wrong, but they've had some sputters. They haven't been able to roll over teams. It just seems like these, in some situations, they wear down the other team trying to keep up with them, through the first half of the game, and by the second half, then they can roll over them. But the key really is, I've always said that Miami is not as good as you think they are, but with this defensive improvement, they have. I'm just trying to look for this. They're number 1 by far on defensive improvement over the last 5 weeks on my model. And for the season, they're up from dead last to they're in the top 10 defensively here, I think. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. They're 9th in defense somehow. How the hell did that happen? So
yeah. Fangio happened. That's why.
Yeah. So you're seeing the signs of a well balanced team developing on offense and defense, because when you only have one side of that ball working above average, that's going to make it really tough on you. So the fact that they're top 10 defensively at the moment, that's pretty good stuff. But I don't know what it is. I don't trust this team to. I don't know. This Washington team is an enigma. They just don't show up when you expect them to, and then they show up when you don't expect them to. I mean, how the hell they embarrassed themselves on Thanksgiving like they did, and they have every reason in the world to quit and not show up this week. I don't know why my radar goes off and says Miami's going to struggle this week. My model says Miami can cover the 10. So, fortunately, I don't listen to my brain. I follow pretty much what my model does in reasonable adjustments. So my brain says Washington somehow, don't sit there and lay the kitchen sink on Miami money line. But the model says you can.
Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes the brain can make your bet a little smaller at times. I mean, I have Miami by a lot past the 10 as well. That's the problem here. What's real, what's not. I mean, remember, our models factor in a lot of those games where they just put it to people like they did to Denver and stuff, My recency model also has them pounding him. So it's like, it's both. But I'm on the same boat as you. But here's the thing: you're laying points on the road in the NFL. What we always, everyone says. Maybe that's changed a little bit. It certainly changed when they played the Jets last week. But now you're back-to-back road games. You have both teams have a little bit longer of a week. I don't think you can give Commanders for one extra day a bump. So it's Dolphins or nothing for me, Chris. And you broke it down greatly. And what else is great is you coming on this show and talking to us and giving us your great insights. And I appreciate it so much, my man. And want to thank you for that, and want to ask you where our listeners and our viewers can get your great information in place.
Well, Las Vegas Chris Twitter, Las Vegas Chris YouTube. I do the Bet US show on Wednesday with Jared Smith and Steve Fezzik. And I have a profile at Wager Talk where I offer the ability to follow what I bet. And that's about it.
Well, there you go. Make sure you follow Chris at Las Vegas Chris. Chris, really appreciate it, my man. Have a wonderful weekend. Best of luck in your bets, and we'll be texting.
Cheers. Good luck, everybody.